when two young people get married, they're normally starry-eyed, and sometimes they even get married for love. Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk to you about 5-6 incidents that I've heard about young newly married people and the kind of problems they ran into. So first, mostly whether it is an arranged marriage or a love marriage, the boy and the girl know each other's CTC very well. However, what you do not know is what happens with that money. For example, this girl who got married to this boy earning about 70,000 rupees per month, a take home, was surprised to find that 12,000 rupees was going to a sister, 14,000 was going to his father, and those monies were just going. They had no clue when it would stop and how long it would be there. And that's it. She was also earning similar amount, and she would save the whole thing in pre-marriage, because she was staying with her mother who had a pension. So literally the whole thing, except for some small railway pass or maybe a slipper here or there, she had no other expense. And this fellow, out of the 68,000, he was not able to save 1 rupee because he was paying off all these people. Then she realized that he was also paying a 21,000 rupee EMI for a brother who had business losses and had taken a personal loan to pay off debts. So this guy was paying 21,000 per month on that EMI, and had no clue, and she had no clue whether it would ever come back, right? So if you are having an arranged marriage or whether you are having a love marriage, understand where the money comes from and where the money goes, not just how much is the total CTC. That is something different, right? Second, one nice Tambram boy from Chennai marrying a girl from Mumbai was surprised at the amount of money that this girl could blow in one evening shopping, which was perhaps what his mother and sister would spend in a whole year. He could not even understand that people could buy a pair of slippers for 5,000 rupees. And well, you're surprised because you don't know, you haven't seen. So you have to ask these kind of questions, and these kind of questions, asking these kind of questions and finding out before marriage seems to be very, very difficult. And one of the very important steps of wealth creation is to find a spouse who thinks similarly like you in the wealth creation process. If you are thinking of wealth creation and she is not thinking of wealth creation can't happen, because one important step in wealth creation is to punch much below your weight class, spending much less than what you can spend, so that the balance goes towards wealth creation. Wealth is in all those pairs of slippers you didn't buy, those cars you didn't buy, those luxury items which you didn't buy. All that got converted into wealth. Remember that, right? Another case was again a little more stunning. There was a Bombay boy and Mumbai girl only, and they had gone on a honeymoon where they were spending very lavishly in spite of the girl saying, why do you need to blow so much? He was being very liberal. He blew the money and charged everything onto his credit card, and later on when the bill came, the credit card bill comes 45 days late, so they went home, and then the bill came, and he turned to his wife and said, I don't have money, please pay these bills. You also came with me. So she picked up the whole honeymoon tab without wanting to do so. I mean, it's okay if you know that you're going to spend 1 lakh rupees and you save 50,000 each, that's still fine. With husband and wife both earning, it is not so bad. But, well, this is what was happening. Another case was a boy earning well, paying the EMI and then handing over the balance to his father very dutifully. Father was a retired school teacher who held an iron hand over his son and expected the daughter-in-law also to play the same game by the same rules, because I mean the father of the house got control over the money. The girl refused to give, and she said, no, this is my money, I will manage it, I know how to invest it. The father-in-law was keeping all the money in bank fixed deposits and recurring deposits and incurring huge amount of tax for the son. So the daughter-in-law wanted to change. She put money in ELSS, she put money in mutual funds, etc., which was considered a crime in that house. Why am I enumerating all these? Let me check. Yeah, there was another boy who had bought a house and he was paying literally his whole money, whole income towards the EMI. Right? He had two houses, both in Mumbai, struggling to pay the EMIs, and this marriage was absolutely necessary for that family because her salary allowed them to eat. The money for the day-to-day living came from the new daughter-in-law's money because all the other monies were tied up in paying the EMI. The father-in-law was not earning anything, but he was staying with them. That is still okay. Parents staying is still okay. So all the cash flow which he was earning was going a lot into lifestyle expenses, and because all his money was going into paying the EMI. There was one guy who told his wife, look, if you get married and come and stay with me, you have to pay your expenses of the food. So food expenses of the husband and wife was kept separate. And I don't know whether it is okay or no, but I think these are things which might shock a girl or shock a boy if it comes as a jolt. So I think these are all things which you should be talking before you get married, and I don't know whether people can talk all these things before they get married. I think the church's habit of getting the boy and the girl together with the father and talking about these things makes sense. I think other communities should follow suit, ask whether they've spoken about these things, because these things are far more important than just deciding where to go on the honeymoon. Right? Thank you.